Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 167 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we're going to work on improving our aluminum production by making coils. Enjoy. So our final output is aluminum coils, and here's the higher tier of technology, but I don't think that's going to be available for us now. We just need to do this first one. And then molten aluminum. And we have a couple choices, so we'll want to do one of each. We'll do the manganese for now. Then the aluminum ingots from the regular way. The aluminum will come from aluminum hydroxide. And then that will come from the second tier of processed aluminum. And finally, the aluminum ore goes into that. So let's look at input, because we have the total output of 60 aluminum ore. So we might as well base this setup on that. That's actually going to produce an enormous amount of aluminum. But since this is what our bus can put out, we might as well set this up in relation to that. So let's go through here. We have the second tier of ore processor. So you put that in there, and a speed module to make it smaller. And powder mixers. Sure, speed module to make it smaller. And blast furnace. Same thing. Let's see, this one requires carbon, so we might as well use that as the fuel. And speed modules. Then the induction furnace speed module. Although this can be the tier 3. And strand casting machine. Will we have the second tier of that? Yes, we will. And a speed. So there's several steps to this process. Looks like it's slowed down. No more lime. Are we just maxed out on carbon dioxide? No mud water. Oh, there's no inserters. On this side. For the last little bit. Well, that would cause a problem. But we've got aluminum right on the end here, which might actually potentially cause problems, because what we needed was a setup that was really wide like this. And in fact, even something like this is only 30 machines, and we would need 42. Well, it would be annoying, but we could move this depot. I think it was placed there due to not having enough landfill, but I think we're at the point where we need to move it. It's going to be a little frustrating, but it's not too big a deal, really. Where we just grab what we can. We'll keep the train stop names. Get rid of all of these things for now. And I think the ideal place would have been out here somewhere. Probably. So what does this look like? We're getting there. Well, we just need to have a curve in here to find out where the minimum spot has to be, which is basically right here. Like right here. Get rid of the unnecessary rails here. And looks like we caught up on all our research. We'll get this aluminum fixed up. And then we can stress test it and see if we've fixed the output issues. Okay, we need to get the power and fuel in here. Fuel can come in on drone here. We've already got a nice road here, which we can use for this. So there's a rocket booster, just the one drone, and this is pretty far from a fuel depot, so we might want to copy this setup here. It won't help this depot any, but perhaps future depots will be set up faster. Then we've just got this to come out and go down and go in. Finally, we need an LTN combinator. I don't know if it was included in here. It looks like it was. It's kind of buried in there, but it's got all these set up as depots. It's called the plate depot. So if everything is set up correctly, this should be a place for trains to go. And actually we can check. Here it says we've got plate depot, but one. Seems like there should be two of them. Ah, well, I guess that answers that question about if the depot works or not. I'm not sure what the best way to go about this would be. Well, that answers that question. Now that we're removing this as a legitimate depot location, all these trains are trying to get to where they need to go. And now, they should all be, yep, zipping around to the new depot. And now that the depot's gone, we can pick up all this stuff that needs to get moved around. And just keep it going the normal way. Actually, since we are going to be replacing a lot of this, probably want to just let this run and empty itself out. Let's see, these should have been placed in such a way that there would have been enough room to expand. At least that was my intent. And it doesn't seem like it happened. Or did it? Well, I guess it did. That is really narrow. Well, it fits here, but then this one doesn't fit. Well, these ones don't need this because they never are made by Coils. And I guess you wouldn't there either, but we are going to need silver coils. And actually, since that is a thing, and since we are already here, we might want to consider doing it, because it is going to change the alignment of this stuff. The next tier of silver production, we can do silver sheet coils, which can be chopped into plates, which is something we'd want to do for the future bus. But also, we can make silver wire coils, which will help as well. And also further down, we have the next tier of silver processing. But we can wait until we're at that point of the factory to upgrade, because we're not really doing this for the purposes of increasing silver production, more just to align everything properly. Well, and I guess in that sense, we don't necessarily have to do it right now. We just need to keep that in mind when placing things. So if you look at this, this is the approximate size, and it just barely fits in here. I don't like how this is mushed in here, but it's not going to expand the coils. So as long as when we rebuild this, it's just placed out here, then it should line up properly. But of course, we're also going to be making the silver wire coils as well, which means we'll need 2 sets of machines. So, we probably should do it now. Actually, now that I think about it, we don't necessarily have to build it. We just need to leave the space to do it. But, oh well, research is starting. We can let it complete. And this is taking a while. It's interesting how they seem like they're going kind of slow, but I think that's because of resources that are stored inside the machines. And what kind of setup are we going to need? Basically lots of speed modules. It's nice seeing it keep up with glass now. Now we just got to do the same thing with aluminum. This is probably going to have to move. It was kind of temporary in its placement. Okay, research is done. So this might have to be placed in its more symmetrical position later. But it was also kind of temporary, so it might not really be necessary that it's hooked up to anything anymore. Because by the time it runs out of resources, we'll be at the point of building the new bus anyway. But there we go. And in fact, the train stations are going to move around a little bit. And the position of this is going to move too. Okay, we need a blueprint of spacing. Basically, it's this right here. Probably just want to create a blueprint for that. Let's create another blueprint without that spacing built in. So we don't need any of that. So when this gets placed in here, it's going to need this space here, and it looks like it basically needs all of it. We could recreate the space, but then it would require moving these train stations around. I kind of don't want to bother with that. So let's just see where the edge of this would be. Seems like it would be about here. So when we place this next one, we can actually give it the appropriate amount of space, which would be approximately right there. And the same thing again. They would be approximately right here. And we'll pick all that up for now. Of course, this will have to be expanded even further with new resource types, but we'll deal with that later. We're just doing this right now to find out the spacing of everything. So this right here will be the silver wire. And then we'll probably have to move some of these stations. I guess in that sense, it wouldn't have been that big a deal to move this one. But oh well. We'll just do what we can. So now we have a shopping list of stuff to make. So the setup will probably be fairly similar to this. So we got to set that up for the aluminum. But if that's 30, That'll be 42, and it's close enough that I'm not too concerned that it's technically not enough. Because I think I would prefer it be nice and square than have one machine extra hanging out on the end. And we can sort of pick up a lot of this just to make sure we're not building anything. I just noticed that zinc has worked its way down. It's no longer overloaded. Almost overloaded on nickel, but we can take care of that with some military research, which we can do once we've got this whole setup complete. And we can stress test the new machines. Let's see pipe visualizer here to find all of the missing sections. It is very useful for this. Looks good. And speed modules in all of these. So we've got all our machines, but we'll have two different ways of making what we need, one using manganese and one using straight aluminum. The manganese one is going to be twice as fast. We might as well grab something like this for a pattern. As far as lining it up, I kind of would like to line it up with the rest of them, but actually doing so might be kind of difficult. I think that's it. Nope. It needs to be one over. I think that'll do it. However, this alignment of machines will change somewhat. So let's see if we can do this with the minimum amount of stuff being moved. Well, if we need 10.72 induction furnaces for using manganese, basically doing an alloy, then we'll need twice as many of them for not doing an alloy. The scale of this might be slightly too high. I know our output is that, but do we really need 180 aluminum per second? Probably not. So we'll just set that to 30, which makes these numbers a little smaller, a little easier to work with. So we needed 28 of these. So we don't need these last ones. That also helps because it makes these numbers line up a little better. So we need 60 per second of each of these, which means one more space. I think the thing is that because we're using sub-manganese, that the potential output of this is significantly higher than it would be otherwise. Oops, I gave it 2 spaces. Wait, no, that was correct. Because we need to have 4 red belts going in here. And we actually only need these machines on each end. And this is probably going to require a huge number of inserters. Yeah, basically a stack inserter for each material type for each machine. That's quite a bit of input for just 8 machines. And then we'll need twice as many, which are flanked on the outside here. So let's change this. Get these numbers to look right. Wonder if I got those numbers correct here, because it says 11, but I might have not put enough speed modules in there. Oh, but it also needs to be induction furnace too. Okay. So it was the incorrect type. Hopefully I didn't make that mistake for the other side. With glass. I don't think so, because it seemed like it was going pretty well. Wow, so only a total of 5 machines. Well, we'll do the 6 here. That's 2 inserters. Now we can switch it to the regular kind. Add the speed modules in there. And that about makes sense. We need approximately twice as much. So about 12. And we can flank them on the outside here. Now doing it in this way does require a great deal of aluminum ingots. And in fact, we could never really produce that many to begin with. The most we'll ever be able to do is 60. So if we link this by input to 60, we'll find out that we can fill up about 4.1 of those. So we can put that in there. And it looks like we need about 2 stack inserters per machine. And we can copy it over there. So I think we finally got this lined up here. And from now on, going down the chain, we probably want to leave it stuck with the aluminum ingot only, because this is the worst case scenario. But we got to get some logic hooked up to this. And I think the numbers are getting to the point where it's time for a sorting warehouse, which will help with the logic and whatnot. Where you can do something like this. And this will be for aluminum. Let's see, I'll do some of those on each side, because we will have 3 inputs going in, plus the 2 manganese, which will just be going right over that. And we'll need to extend the signal. I don't remember the last place we used it. Looks like it's all the way down there. And look at that, the zinc worked its way down real fast. And lead worked its way down, tin worked its way down. Those are actually pretty low numbers. A lot of it's working down. So it looks like it's starting to balance out. But we'll take this signal and zip it along for now. Actually, now that I think about it, we won't actually need to use that signal at all. It's nice to have it here, but the point of control is going to be on the inserters themselves, because they're all outputting to this tank. But we want to give priority to using manganese. So that can run all the time. The thing we'll need to control are the inserters for the normal method, using just aluminum. And we'll say if aluminum is less than 40,000, that this method can turn on. Otherwise, the manganese method will be on all the time. And we'll use other logic to control where that manganese goes. Those pipes don't reach anymore, because the machines are gone. But we can move them up. And we also need some water, but it's kind of far enough away from water at this point where I think I'd rather just do some pump jacks. So we can just kind of put some in here. That's a little cleaner. I think it's time to move the resources down and use tons and tons of belts. But we need to see where the first free belt is. It looks like it's going to be this one. I'll just keep going. Because we want to go to manganese. And we want 2 outputs to go that way. And now that we have 2 different applications of it, we can have some logic in here. As long as manganese ore is above 100, then it will send it to presumably iron. But otherwise, the priority will be over here, which will go all the way down to aluminum. And then the manganese can just hop over and go right in. Well, it looks like it needs to be lined up with this one. And then we have our 3 inputs of aluminum. And a lot of this stuff will get upgraded or changed. But for now, we'll just hook it up. With it as is. Okay, we're just waiting on the aluminum to get here. Then we can see at least how well this part works. This won't really improve our material efficiency any, but it will make shipping stuff easier. Now I kind of want to let this run for a while and have a train come through and pick up the last little bit that's left. So in that sense, it might be worth doing some research and putting it to the test. But for now, here's the setup for a train station. And it looks like it's misaligned a little bit, but it'll fit in here. Of course, I dropped all of the train track stuff back at the base, so I don't have any. But oh well. Basically, when converting these systems, some of the aluminum made it. Did it run out? Yes, but it looks like it's catching up. But when you're making big changes, when it comes from switching to plates to coils, which is a pretty big change, a lot of stuff has to be different as a result of that. Well, one thing you can do is leave the existing setup in place and just let requests happen as normal. And eventually, they'll clear out what's available. And then from there, you can hook up the new process. Alright, so we definitely want this to be limited. Probably should limit this again so I don't forget any future setups. This is looking pretty good. Let's input the resources. And we do also want to use this warehouse for priority. So we always want the aluminum to go up. But it can only go to the side if there's a little bit. Nah, there's no limiter on here. Let's say aluminum has to be greater than 100 for it to split off to the side. So those won't run, but they'll get set up. And finally, this should get the process going. And I don't think there's any modules in here. At least in some of the machines. But, oh yes, and these need to be switched to the correct type. So those are going. It looks like they're keeping up. Aluminum's being beefed up. It looks like it's slowly making its way into all these machines. But there's all of our aluminum coils. And they'll be being filled up for a train station that isn't set up yet. That's okay. Seems pretty good. This isn't going to run completely at full power because I don't really want to build this setup based on that amount of input resources. But 90 ore going in a second is pretty good. And it looks like it's annihilating our aluminum, as you would expect. Of course, there's only the one belt going up there now, but that needs to be upgraded, and it will. Let's do some research. This doesn't completely fix the problem, but at least we can see how it works. We want to grab some military research. Let's upgrade the lasers. So this gets started up. Everything's nice and caught up here. Actually, considering the buffer that was built up, it's going to take quite some time for this to hit full speed. Unless we want to build more labs. But building those was kind of annoying, so I don't really want to go through the effort of making more right now. So we'll just let that continue. And it looks like this has hit its limit. That's okay. It's not like these resources are going anywhere. They'll just fill up and stop. And eventually a request will be made for these ones right here, assuming that it has the minimum amount necessary for a train to come by. And it looks like it does. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to work on the smelting side of aluminum and improve production there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.